Are you learning SQL and you begin to forget seeing the syntax? Select this from this where this is that, and that's already getting confusing. First of all, welcome to my cyberspace. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about the simple or most common SQL syntax and how to memorize them. Now, a lot of times when people try to make a SQL query, you know that most of the time you have to select a table from this. And I don't want you to think of SQL as something that is very difficult. SQL is one of the easiest programming language that you can learn out there. Yes, I'm very honest with you. And think of it as you are having a normal conversation with somebody. The way SQL work is that it's a little bit more intuitive than some other programming language like Python and R. And let me share my screen so you could have a better understanding of what I am saying. Now, first few thing is, imagine you actually do have a table or you have a book in a library, because this is a database. You have a book in a library and you want to, let's say, go to page 23. What you would say is kindly go to page 23. But to make things more easier, because this is a programming language and computer is very dummy, so you need to have like a specified language in itself. You understand why it's actually called a language. So it's a set of principles that sort of has to be followed. Most of the time what happens is that we are selecting something. So I could say that maybe you actually do have like maybe you have like so many books in a shelf and you're like, okay, select this book titled this and that from this particular shelf. Imagine you have so many shelves where the book is like red, and maybe order them by the height of the book. So that's sort of like the whole like intuition behind SQL in itself. So how do you like have a better memory of that? There's been an acronym developed by myself that people have used, which is called silly frog jump on wet grass, hopping over logs. You could memorize this if this works for you. If it doesn't, you probably just save this somewhere. Now, it's not all the time that you would need to select information from a data that you would have to use all of this like SQL query. Like maybe you have to select from, but almost all the time you have to use select and from. That's almost like certain. You have to use select and from. So the question is, how do you know when you're supposed to use all of them or when you're supposed to use some of them? And that is what we're talking about in this video. So you are a very great data expert and you know the use case for each, but it's just best you have this in memory. One of the things you also get to know, which I really wanted to quickly touch on, is if I try to run this, I will run into error, because obviously there's nothing like this. I could try to just highlight everything and click on this. So if you notice this, it says comment out the selected line. I comment this out. If I run this, I'm not going to get any error. So that's one way, and you could click on this to open a new query. But I want to specifically work on two tables, which is the human resource and department. So first few thing I could do is, how do I load in this table? So let me go open this. So there are a few ways to open this table. Imagine I have started to use this table a good number of time. I could open this table using select. I have to select all. So instead of typing all, the way you write all in SQL is you use the this sign, is the asterisk sign from, I could say, from department. Let's see if this is going to work. One of the ways to know if something would not work is, let me try to comment this out. So it's not, one of the ways to know that something will not work is by the fact that it is on a red line. So if I run this, it's not going to work. It says invalid object name there. So I could do dot, I could just put in the schema name, which is the human to make this easier for myself, I can start with human resources dot, it automatically gives me the option. So that's that. And sometimes you might not have, if it's a DBO, you might not need to put the schema in front. So I could do this and it works. Another way to do this is to specify this in its full. Let me comment this out. This is how I comment this out. So and also people can make some error by trying to click on this. If I click on this, it's not going to make my query work. So make sure you are not, and to uncomment something, you just click on this and this. So it's showing this. So that's not what I want. I want something like this. So you don't want that. So let's go back to this. Don't mess up with that. So comment this out. And next thing I could do is I could just copy this and try to uncomment it again and write this all departments to make it in full. And this is, let me uncomment this. So if I could run this, you see this is still going to work, but let me sort of comment this because it's so the reason why this doesn't work is showing because I did not write from. I'm selecting this from. I need to put a from sign from this. Now you might have a question as to why did this work without the AdventureWorks database. That's because right here I do have the AdventureWorks. If I comment this right now and I bring this and I run this, it's still going to work. But imagine I change my database to a different database called, let me use the bike store. This would no longer work. You see it's already put on the red line. So this would mostly work only when you are in the same database that you are supposed to choose. And in case I'm not in that same database, I could come here manually to choose the same database, or I just use AdventureWorks. I type in normally. So right now I could choose this other database, and if I do this, that's going to work. So first few thing is when you are looking at the data, so we have this already, and I choose the human resources, right? The department, whichever way you want to run this. So let me take this down, and so we can have a better picture of this. I do see that I have like these 4 tables. The question is, let's say I need to get like information regarding engineering or tools. I need to know what are like the different group names that they have here. So a few things I could do is I could try to do select group name. So I just want to select only the group name if I want to see the different group name from this. So this is one. So I didn't write this properly. So SQL would really tell you like if you are correct or not. So group name from this. So if I run this, although this is showing me like 16 rows, it's showing me like a lot of group names. Well, I really want to know, imagine like this record is like 1,000 record. I really wanted to know like what is like the distinct group name. Like, do we have research and development, sales and marketing? Like, how many do we have? Like, what are these? So all I just have to come here and do distinct. So put a space, distinct, and make sure you spell it correctly, because sometimes people might think they are spelling distinct and will not put N. It does happen to me. So you would select this, and right now I can see, oh, this is how you could sort of start to have a better understanding of your data in itself. And one other thing you can do is, instead of running it by the name, let me open a different table. Let me open person.person. So if I click on this, I could just click on the table, right click on it and select top 1000. By selecting the top 1000, I could see that, okay, we do have, these are the column names that we have. So this is showing me each of the column names. And one thing you could do is, that, okay, these demographics, you don't know whatever is this, you can just align this and comment it out, so you can have like lesser information. You can comment these ones out. You can maybe comment some things you don't want out just to see lesser things. And this is something you can do. For myself, and sometimes less is more, it allows me to see the data better. I like to just see the top 10. I will see the top 10, and it allows me to just have a better view. There's just a lot, not so many things going on, and that's one way. So but let's have like a practice of what we have here. So one way we could do is, let's say I want to get information where the business entity ID is 7, right? I could just say this is already selected. So the next thing is just where and what do I want. So that's the business entity ID. It automatically brings it equals to 7. So I do this, and at least I want to just select this information here, and it's if this doesn't work, let's say sometimes you might working with a database whereby numbers are actually represented with like a text. You can just code this 7 and see if it will work, but this might not work. Let's see. So this does work also. So it's best a lot of times when you probably put in a number, you put in as a quote. So let's also assume that, let me take this away. Let's say I just want to get information where the name is probably like the title is not null, right? I want information where the title is not null. I want information for the title. I could say where title, right, is not null. Literally, like SQL is more like you are speaking. So I could do that, and it does give me that information. You see that everything I don't have where the title is null. Another thing I could do is maybe the same way that what I have here, instead of writing this, let me comment this out. So we see like I could just say where title not equals null. Still the same thing. It's not or not equals is still the same. So is not or not equals is still the same. So it's not equal. So you see she doesn't. So just make sure that you we do use this one. So that's another way to another syntax you could use for that. So we've done the from, we've done where. The next query, I'm going to be talking about how to use like the other aspect of it, like how to use the join and all of that. So I hope you learned something from this video. In case you did, do well to look at the subsequent video, and do well to subscribe, like, follow and share. Bye.